everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah Lipkowitz. I'm a real estate agent based in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I want to answer some of your frequently asked questions about moving to Maryland in 2022. I've made a moving to Maryland video in the past, and I have a lot of other content on Maryland, living here, pros and cons, first-time home buyer programs. I really encourage you to check out those videos because I think a lot of that content is still incredibly relevant. And I'll go ahead and link to that playlist at the end of this video. But for today, I'm getting a lot of questions from buyers coming in from other states and from other countries about what the market looks like here, what you have to do in order to get an offer accepted, is there inventory to look at, and I wanted to go through some of that today. So let's start off with how the market has been shaping up so far in 2022. We're only about 2 weeks into the year and inventory has been low. I mean, low. And it's been even worse than it was like right before the holidays, which is odd. Over the last 2 years or so, the spring market has really been ramping up pretty quickly after the first of the year. And I would have expected to see more homes go on the market, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we've had some inclement weather of late. We've actually already had 2 snowstorms this year with ice, and that really tends to make sellers hold off. So I think inventory as the year goes on will start to go up. I'm hoping we'll have more than we had last year, but I am anticipating another pretty competitive year for buyers here in Maryland and nationally, probably also as well. Part of the reason inventory is low is because of COVID, which is ongoing, and part of it is because we have a national housing shortage, and Maryland certainly hasn't been immune to that. So, you know, in terms of resales, you're getting a lot of bidding wars going on throughout the year. And I'm hoping buyers will have an easier time this spring than they had last spring. It was pretty competitive, although I will say that all of my buyers were able to get into homes and, you know, feel comfortable with their offer terms. In terms of the rates, right now we are just over 3%, so obviously that's a good bit above the historic lows we've had over the last 2 years, and the forecasts are that rates will continue to climb through 2022. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're debating whether you want to buy now or at the end of the year, I would encourage you to lock in a rate just because we don't know what's going to happen. There are a number of awesome regions you could live in Maryland. There's the Eastern Shore. I've worked with a number of farm buyers and sellers out that way. It's a little bit slower pace to life, a little bit more rural. But if you're thinking you're gonna have to commute to DC or Baltimore, you're probably not gonna wanna live over there just because you are gonna have to cross the Bay Bridge, and it's gotten a lot better since they took out the toll plaza. However, it is still a toll road, and beach traffic during the summer, particularly on Fridays, can be horrendous. So it's not a commute I would recommend for most people if you're having to commute each and every day. There's also Southern Maryland, which is another great alternative if you like being near the water. There are a lot of options for being on or near the water, and it is in places a bit more rural, but there's other places that are getting a bit more built up, and it's a reasonable commute to the district from a lot of Southern Maryland. However, you should be aware that a lot of the main commuter routes in Southern Maryland, like Route 4, Route 5, I've found that they are not fun to drive on during rush hour, like a lot of the state, to be honest, but there's something about the traffic lights, the construction, that I've just found to be particularly unpleasant. I think where you live in Maryland is highly dependent on what you want. You know, we also have Western Maryland where there's more mountains, but it's also very dependent on where you're working and how often you need to commute. I know a lot of people are able to move to more rural areas now. A lot of my farm buyers are able to finally purchase farms because they don't have to commute anymore, but that's not gonna hold true for everyone. So commuting in Maryland can be a nightmare depending on where you're commuting to and where you live. You definitely wanna aim for a reverse commute if you can. And you know, most of the populace lives in Central Maryland, which is, you know, Montgomery County, Howard County, the areas surrounding Baltimore itself, purely because of, you know, job opportunities, how built up it is. That's just it's Central Maryland. It's the center of the state, and it offers a lot of opportunity to commute and to travel. There are multiple airports, but it's not for everybody. So it's important to do your research in terms of kind of what pace of life you like. If you're interested in being more towards the mountains versus, on the water, it's a very important thing to decide upon, because if you live on the Eastern Shore, you're not necessarily getting out to Western Maryland all that often. In terms of how competitive the market is here, I get a lot of questions about what price should we offer and can we even have inspections. First of all, the price you offer is entirely up to you. I do not get a say in that as your real estate agent. I will pull comps. I will give you a price range for where I might have priced the property had I been listing it. The best way I can describe it, though, short of talking to the listing agent, seeing how many other offers are on the table and what those offers look like, the best thing in this market where sellers aren't feeling like they need to negotiate, they just pick the best offer out of the pool and maybe negotiate some small details after that, you really do want to come in with your best offer. And I think the best way to decide what that is going to be for a particular property is to think about the number that you would be happy and comfortable with getting this property for, but you wouldn't be devastated if somebody else offered more and won the bid, because you simply would not be willing to go over that number. In a market this competitive where inventory is so low, I think that's the best way to think about it. I know I have had a number of buyers who have found that helpful. That being said, I have also had buyers this year make bids below asking and get the bid on the house based on circumstances, how long the house has been on the market, if it needs work, if it's had a contract fall through, all those things. So, it's really highly dependent on the house. Now, the other thing I want to say is a lot of buyers are coming in expecting that they're not going to be able to have inspections. And I want people to know that this is not true. You may not be able to make your offer contingent upon inspections as you traditionally would with the right to terminate and the right to negotiate repairs and credits, but you could certainly come in with an as-is offer. Now, even in this market, those are a little dicey sometimes. The as-is addendum in Maryland, typically you have a certain number of days to have whatever inspections you want, and you have two options. You can either submit an offer with the right to terminate, so you have the inspections, you have a certain number of days to terminate, or you are simply buying the property as is, no inspections. I sometimes will also write in, and I've actually done this quite a number of times this year, if we walk through a house and we feel it's in pretty good shape, the sellers have a lot of details about when work was done, we may write an offer with informational inspections. And I think at very least, you need to do this. Informational inspections allow you to have the home inspected within a certain number of days after you have ratified a contract, after you've gone under contract on the home. You cannot ask the seller for repairs, for credits. You can't terminate the contract based on the results of the inspection. However, I still think this is super important to include. I want my buyers to be as educated as possible about the home that they're buying. So even if they have decided this home seems low risk, we're going to move forward without being contingent upon inspections, it's still important to be able to have the right to have the inspections so that you can walk through the home with the home inspector and they can point out to you things that you may want to keep an eye on, things that are top priority, things that are simple, even just like where your water shutoff is. Those are important things to know, and a home inspector can just give you a better picture of the home you're about to close on. And so I think a lot of my buyers have done this year. I think it's incredibly important, even if you're going as is, to make sure that you at least have the right to access the home for inspections for your own information. Lastly, I want to talk about some first-time homebuyer perks. I made an entire video about first-time homebuyer programs, and I think that you should certainly check that out. The Maryland Mortgage Program offers a lot of incentives and programs to help buyers with down payments. Sometimes they run programs where you can roll your student loans into your home loan, and I know for a lot of people that's been incredibly helpful. The other thing to keep in mind, regardless of where you're moving to in Maryland and whether or not you qualify for any of the Maryland Mortgage Program incentives, is that as a first-time home buyer in the state of Maryland, so if you have never owned property in Maryland, you do not need to pay your portion of the Maryland state transfer tax. So at settlement, there are certain taxes you pay. You pay state transfer tax, county transfer tax, and recordation taxes. Traditionally, these are split between the buyer and the seller, but the buyers, if they are first-time home buyers, do not pay their portion of the state transfer tax. So that could save you thousands of dollars at settlement, and it's something you need to make sure your real estate agent and your title company know. Thank you for watching. Again, my name is Sarah Lipkowitz. I'm a real estate agent specializing in homes and farms in Maryland and Virginia. I really hope you found this video helpful and that you will check out some of my other videos about Maryland and the home buying process, because I know there is so much information that I couldn't cover in this video. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. And, keep an eye on this space. I post a lot of content like this because I want my buyers to be as educated as possible so that they feel less stressed about the process in general. Knowing which steps come next, knowing a bit more about the state you're moving to, the area you're moving to, can really help you feel more comfortable with the process, and that is always my goal.